going on?
I'm the proud parent of 4 children, 3 adopted, and after the 3rd adoption, suddenly the biological surprise.
How about that?
He's an inspiration.
Yes?
Ted knew exactly what he wanted to do when he came into this physical world. He came in premature, had a cerebral hemorrhage, as a result, quadriplegic with cerebral palsy.
Yes? Wanting a different perspective.
Yes.
For himself and everybody he had agreements with before you all came.
And yes, I know for a fact that he and I had an agreement.
Yeah.
That he was going to come into this world, and I was going to be his loving parent and #1 fan.
And not need the conditions to be a certain way in order to find your own alignment. In other words, he was not going to be someone who jumped through the normal hoops so that you could be a normal human who calibrates to other humans.
True. He was a huge inspiration to a lot of young men as he was growing up, grade school, junior high, high school. He and I were sports buddies, and we would go to every high school, junior high sporting event, and he was always the #1 fan of the team wherever we lived in the country. And I always said, Ted, if you're going to be their fan, you will be their fan whether they're winning or losing. You will always be there for them. And I think that's kind of why I was in the picture with him. I was always his #1 fan, with not expecting.
You were his #2 fan. His inner being is his #1 fan. But it doesn't matter who his fan is. It's who he's focused toward. It's not about who's looking at him. It's about what he's calibrating to. So you were a good influence for that, yes?
Yes.
Yeah?
Obviously, he had lots of physical issues growing up. This past year was extremely difficult for him. He had COVID twice. He had pneumonia a couple times. It suddenly started having seizures. He was on a ventilator for a while. He had a feeding tube. And
how is he now?
He made his transition the Wednesday before Father's Day.
So he is so good
he's
now.
He's happy. He's dancing. Well, he was always happy. I can't say despite his physical condition, because that's not true. He was always a happy individual. He loved to laugh. He loved to make people laugh. He was a true inspiration to anybody that came in contact with him.
Inspiring because of the unconditional nature of his happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't look at the circumstances and say, woe is me, look, I can't do this, I can't do this. He just enjoyed life, because this is the way he wanted to come in, what he wanted to experience.
Can we interrupt here for a moment? This is worth really considering. When you're in a situation where you're sort of, we don't want to use the word forced, into an I give up situation, like acceptance of something because that is how it is. There's a releasing of resistance that allows alignment, that allows happiness. Esther's Jerry, was a big help to a lot of people. He advised people about financial matters and helped them set goals and things like that before we came into their life experience. And he asked us, when he first began interacting with us, Abraham, why is it that so many people who I meet that are having financial difficulties, they lose the extra things first, like they lose the boat and they lose the unnecessary car and they lose the things that aren't so important, and then they lose the house. And why is it, he asked, they need to hit bottom before they begin to bounce back? And he said, and they always bounce back. What is it? Why do they have to go all the way to the bottom before they bounce back? And we said because there is a clinging to what is. There's a feeling of not wanting to lose it, which just perpetuates the losing. Well, your child did not have that. Did not have that clinging to something because there was an acceptance of what is. And so in Abraham terminology these days, we're saying a really wonderful stance is to be satisfied with what is. In other words, not yearning for it to be different and eager for more. Happy and frisky in your physical body, feeling good. Sure, there's a few extra pounds. That cheesecake is so good. But satisfied with what is and appreciating vitality and vim and vigor and this and that and this and that, and eager for the more that you have defined that you want. So I just wanted to slip that in there, that really it's our way. While your son is an inspiration to so many, we want to say softly to you, it was easier for him to be an inspiration to many because he didn't have all of those confusing choices. He didn't feel like he was failing at anything because he accepted that this is what was, and then he was eager for where that would lead next. Right. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yes. And so what's this all about now with you?
I know he was ready to go. He had accomplished what he wanted to in this physical realm.
Yes.
I wasn't ready.
Esther can relate to that with you. She called Jerry a rat bastard for lovingly. She just said it to be fun. What do you mean you're ready to make your transition? I'm not ready for you to make your transition, and I'm the boss of you.
Yeah. Ted was a very social character.
Yeah.
He loved parties. He loved to be in groups.
Yeah.
And he chose to leave the Wednesday before Father's Day. Well, my son from New York and his partner and my daughter from California, we hadn't seen each other in quite a few years because I'm in Seattle, and we hadn't all been together at one place at one time for a long time. I know Ted orchestrated that because his timing was impeccable. He passed away. We all flew in. We had a service for him on Saturday. Sunday was Father's Day, and I had the delight to sit with some of my other children and just reminisce. And I know Ted orchestrated that. For sure. And was wise enough to cut out before you all got there and tried to hold him back. True.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Deliberate creation.
Yeah.
Source energy guidance. Living happily ever after.
Absolutely.
Speak about him in present tense with those who won't lock you up for being crazy. In other words, in your own mind. Esther has a dear friend whose wife transitioned not too long after Jerry. And they were having dinner one night, and he was talking about letting go. And Esther was talking about why. And he was talking about moving on. And Esther said, yeah, we all go together. In other words, there's nothing to let go of. But his grief counselors had told him that he needed to let go of that so that he could move on. And Esther explained from her perspective that she didn't understand why they couldn't do both, because she is certain that Jerry is involved in everything that she's thinking about and everything that she's contemplating. She's able to figure things out that she never figured out because she knows he's aware and he's still figuring them out. That's not dependency, that's co-creation, you see. And now there is no resistance whatsoever, you see. If you want to, there's a big grin happening. If you want to.
That's Ted.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to, you can forget about anything that seemed like a hindrance to him, because that's gone now. And focus upon the part of him that was then and always will be, that light-hearted spirit, that knowing that all is well, that cheerleader, that cheerleader, you know. He wants you to think of your inner being. You getting this? And his inner being. And he wants you to think of all of that in the way that you were describing him in the stands as the number one fan. That's what your inner beings are like. And he wants you, because you've got such a visceral feeling of all of that, he wants you to focus there. He's using the word firm up or shore up while he's assuring us that you don't need it often. Your understanding of your own inner being. One of the best things, we like it so much, and humans have a hard time with this. They often don't want to hear this from us, but we like it so much when somebody you really care about croaks. We try to be disrespectful about death, since there isn't any, because that's when you turn your attention most. Not those like you who've been listening, not those like you who've been hearing us talking about non-physical for a while. But most humans really don't think much on a personal level about non-physical till someone that they really love makes their transition. And so when Jerry made his transition, Esther was beside herself. And that's a really literal term. She could not find her balance or her alignment. Her grief was strong. And it took a while for her to settle down. And then in a moment of distraction, we said to her, you must stop looking for Jerry where he was and look for him where he is. And she heard it in that moment. And once she started doing that, then the grief was less and less and less. And the continuing on with great ideas and lots of fun was more. Don't go to a grief counselor. They don't know what they're talking about. Go to a joy counselor.
Right. And I'm very joyful for Ted, and very happy that he made his transition when he was ready and wanted to.
Yeah.
And he always was a free spirit in his mind.
Yeah.
Maybe not his body.
Yes.
And now he is a totally, completely.
So he's asking us to ask you to talk about something that's important to you. Enough about me, he's saying. What do you want? Enough about me.
I think it was also, I'll give you when Ted was he could be a perpetual high school student.
Enough about me.
Okay, but.
Enough about me, he's saying.
I think he
Unless
wanted.
this is really good and makes me look really good, he's saying.
When he was ready to, again, this was his decision. When he was ready to become a senior to graduate high school in Virginia, he did. He graduated with his diploma. He took all the tests and every course he had to take to graduate. And he said, Dad, I want to move out. I don't want to be a burden to you anymore. I want to be like my brothers and my sister and have a life of my own.
That was the most important part. That's the emphasis. In other words, he wanted to do what seniors do or used to do when they graduate, because they want their independence. That's a big part of all of that. It goes together. Yes. So the burden part, he's not sure where you're getting that. He doesn't remember ever saying that to you. We know he did. We know he did, but he's not owning up to it now.
Correct. And I never saw it as a burden either.
Yeah.
Because I was part of the agreement for when he came in, and we partnered together. I said, Ted, there are no group homes, and you're obviously not physically capable of living independently. Your only option is a nursing home. And he said, okay. And he was 18, age of majority. He checked himself into a nursing home.
It's his version of a college dorm.
And he had his freedom.
Yeah.
And he had his life.
And he gave you your freedom.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, he did it again when he transitioned, gave me freedom again. And I can enjoy his freedom.
Yeah. Isn't co-creating wonderful?
Yes.
You good?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah.